Mysterious pneumonia outbreak in China. WHO asks China for details on respiratory illness outbreaks. Canadian former intelligence chief found guilty of leaking state secrets. North Korea ends military deal with South. Finland to close all but one border crossing with Russia. Mali signs deal with Russia to build gold refinery. UAE company buys African land for carbon offset. Far-right icon predicted to win Dutch elections.
Hello, I'm Johnny. Thank you for joining us on Funday News. It's Friday, November 24th, and here are your top stories. A mysterious pneumonia outbreak has surged in Chinese schools, overwhelming hospitals and eliciting serious apprehension from global health experts. Epicenters of the outbreak have been identified in Beijing and Liaoning province, where hospitals are inundated with sick children exhibiting symptoms akin to pneumonia. The severity of the situation has prompted the suspension of classes in certain schools, echoing the early days of the COVID-19 outbreak.
Affected children are experiencing high fever and lung inflammation, distinct from typical pneumonia symptoms as there is no cough and many develop pulmonary nodules. These symptoms are reminiscent of flu or respiratory virus diseases such as RSV. On Tuesday, the international disease surveillance platform ProMed issued an alert regarding the undiagnosed pneumonia affecting children. The cause behind the outbreak remains unclear, and although adults appear unaffected.
The World Health Organization on Wednesday officially requested that China provide detailed information on an increase in respiratory illnesses and reported clusters of pneumonia in children. The WHO said northern China has reported an increase in influenza-like illness since mid-October compared to the same period in the previous 3 years. On Wednesday, the WHO said groups including the Program for Monitoring Emergent Diseases reported clusters of undiagnosed pneumonia in children in northern China.
The WHO said it has requested additional epidemiologic and clinical information, as well as laboratory results from these reported outbreaks among children. The WHO recommends that people in China follow measures to reduce the risk of respiratory illness, including vaccination, keeping distance from people who are ill, staying home when ill, getting tested and medical care as needed, wearing masks as appropriate, ensuring good ventilation, and regular hand washing.
A jury has found the former head of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police Intelligence Unit guilty of leaking state secrets, the first time a Canadian has been convicted under the country's Security of Information Act. On Wednesday afternoon, jurors said Cameron Ortiz was guilty of 3 counts of violating the act and 1 count of attempting to do so. They also found him guilty of breach of trust and fraudulent use of a computer. Prosecutors are seeking a 20-year term. A sentencing hearing will be held in early January.
The trail to Ortiz' arrest began when the RCMP found Ortiz was communicating with Vincent Ramos, who helps produce encrypted cell phones used by organized crime to evade police, and 2 businessmen who were under investigation by Canadian authorities. Ramos would later plead guilty to using his phantom secure devices to help facilitate the distribution of cocaine and other illicit drugs. After a lengthy investigation by the RCMP, Ortiz was arrested in 2019.
North Korea said it is ending an agreement aimed at reducing military tensions with the South, a sign ties are fraying after Pyongyang launched its first spy satellite. The official Korean Central News Agency reported Thursday North Korea vowed that our army will never be bound by the 2018 agreement, adding that it will immediately restore all military measures that have been halted. It added it would deploy more powerful armed forces and new military hardware in the area along the border with South Korea.
The heightened tensions come after North Korea appeared to have successfully placed a spy satellite into orbit, and North Korea fired a ballistic missile toward the East Sea around 11:05 p.m. Wednesday, though the launch appears to have failed. Following the launch of the spy satellite, South Korea suspended parts of a 2018 deal with North Korea intended to ease military tensions along the border. The cabinet in Seoul approved a plan to restore reconnaissance and surveillance activities that were halted under the deal.
Finland's Prime Minister Petteri Orpo said the country would close all but one of the border crossing points still open along its frontier with Russia from November 24th in a bid to stem a flow of asylum seekers. Orpo announced the additional closures at a news conference on November 22nd, saying the move will leave only the northernmost border crossing open, which Orpo said requires a real effort to get there. Finnish Foreign Minister Elena Valtonen on November 22nd accused Russia using migrants as warfare.
Since the beginning of the month, hundreds of people without valid travel documents have entered Finland from Russia to seek asylum, prompting Helsinki to shut several crossings and accuse Moscow of funneling migrants from a range of nations. The Kremlin denies the charge. Valtonen said, "We have proof showing that, unlike before, not only Russian border authorities are letting people without proper documentation to the Finnish border, but they are also actively helping them to the border zone."
BBC reported Mali's military government has signed an agreement with Russia that includes a gold refinery project in the Malian capital Bamako. The deal involves building the refinery to process 200 tons of gold annually. It is valid for 4 years and does not specify when the construction will happen. According to the finance minister Alusani Sanu, the project will allow Mali to control all gold production in the country and correctly apply all taxes and duties.
According to the country's mining ministry, gold is Mali's leading export product by value and one of its largest contributors to economic growth. Mali has strengthened its relations with Russia in recent years following the military coup in 2021 and the withdrawal of French forces from the country a year later. Mali is one of Africa's top gold producers and is home to mining companies including Barrick Gold, B2Gold, Resolute Mining and Hummingbird Resources.
In late September, Zimbabwe's environment minister signed away control over a staggering amount of land, almost 20% of his country, to a little-known foreign company, Blue Carbon. The company plans to run projects to conserve forests, preventing huge amounts of CO2 from entering the atmosphere. It then uses that conservation to create carbon credits to sell to companies and governments to offset the climate pollution they generate while they continue to burn planet-warming fossil fuels.
The Dubai-based Blue Carbon has secured forested land nearly equivalent to the size of the United Kingdom across 5 African nations. The flurry of forest conservation deals with the countries were announced in the months ahead of the annual United Nations COP28 climate summit, being hosted this year in December by the United Arab Emirates. But CNN reported these conservation deals are the latest attempt by the petrostate to use green initiatives as a smokescreen for its plans to continue pumping fossil fuels.
The Netherlands on Wednesday took a startling turn in national elections with the potential to ripple through Europe as Dutch voters threw most support behind the party of a far-right icon with an incendiary reputation who had campaigned on an anti-immigrant platform. According to some early results and exit polls, Geert Wilders, a political provocateur long known for his anti-Islam and anti-Europe stances, appeared poised to come out significantly ahead with the most parliamentary seats.
The New York Times said if the preliminary results hold up, the Netherlands will be at the threshold of uncertain new political terrain after 13 years of stewardship by Prime Minister Mark Rutte. The Times added a victory for Mr. Wilders would lengthen a string of advances for far-right parties in Northern Europe, including Sweden, where the government now depends on the parliamentary votes of a party with neo-Nazi roots, and Finland, where the right has ascended into the governing coalition.
The answer for yesterday was B, overwhelming. She had the almost overwhelming desire to tell him the truth. Did you answer correctly? Now let's delve into the news of mysterious pneumonia outbreak in China. Number 1, surge. 物价利润等急剧上升，飞涨激增。Share prices surged. Number 2, apprehension. 忧虑、担心、恐惧。There is growing apprehension that fighting will begin again. Number 3, suspension. 暂令停职或停学、停赛等。A strike by the British Airways ground staff has led to the suspension of flights between London and Manchester. Next, we have a multiple choice question for everyone to practice. Which answer would you choose? You can write your answer in the comment section. The correct answer will be announced tomorrow. And that's all for today's Funday News. Be sure to tune into Funday News from Monday to Friday and click the link below to join Funday for free. I'm Johnny Wu, your host. I'll see you next time.